Now that the Oracle's double shot has been fixed, I can use this guy without feeling too bad. Want to start experimenting with some more Lizardmen builds featuring him and certain legendary lords who could benefit from synergy. I've already showcased a battle before with Nakai and the Oracle, but let's do one more. This time, instead of a blob build versus vampire counts, we've got a nice spread skink build versus high elves. I'm up against Rider of Rohan, of course. I've got Nakai. Arc of Sotek is a mandatory, and skink oracle. Also got one unit of feral cold ones, supporting a couple of chameleon skinks out on this side. About to face off with some dragon princes. I've got 4 red crests through the center, including, of course, cohort of Sotek, 3 javelin cohorts, and a couple of regular cohorts to act as a screen. For the high elves here, got 5 white lions as a front line, 2 dragon princes, 3 Lothern sea guards with shields, Imric, noble, and a life mage. So relatively narrow, but very strong build, I would say. These dragon princes are going to come in, get a nice little charge, but they're going to pull away here. And initially in the battle, Rider Rohan had thought these were Cold One Riders, but even still, I would say this is probably a good engagement to pull out of. I mean, I've got these red crests here, the Overwatch fire from the Oracle, plus all the chameleons. I mean, the dragon princes, they could have maybe beat those feral cold ones initially, but they would have taken a lot of damage in the process. Meanwhile, Nakai jumps into the front line here. We're going to meet the white lions with the red crests. It's going to be mostly a good engagement for the white lions. Red crests are definitely a lower tier unit. I'm going to try and swing that with like some refuse to die here in the center. Primal Roar also from Nakai. Big physical resistance, 40 melee attack, 74. You can see that one regular red crest just absolutely mops white lions there. This one definitely losing pretty decisively. Arc of Sotek not able to get there quite in time, but it is going to do the Sneck drop on that. Meanwhile, Oracle using its ranged attacks to go after these dragon princes here. Eventually, they do realize, like, oh, hey, those are just feral cold ones. Let's jump in. Like I said, they're still going to end up taking quite a bit of damage here. Feral cold ones, any damage they do get on the dragon princess is super cost effective, so this is not a bad engagement for me by any means. We kind of overwhelm and start to overload. Here in the center, some losses, some wins. Both the white lions here being done, but big old map-wide push from the high elves. Dragonhorn active. The white lions will be doing a little bit of extra damage there. Here in the center, Nakai got somewhat mauled initially. I had to pull him back, but now he's going to jump back in. A little bit of an Earthblood on the High Elf side. Deadly Onslaught, all the stuff being popped, and Nakai gets demolished. It's really a bad engagement for him, no question. Imric plus the Noble, obviously both anti-large AP, so he is going to rout there. My Harmonic Convergence basically did not help at all. I mean, High Elves still have high enough stats that he got pummeled. The Scarvet could not save him either, so that's not great. Thankfully, he doesn't get actually killed here. Manages to escape with about 400 HP left. Meanwhile, I'm pressuring the rest of the High Elf army pretty hard. Those Dragon Princes did eventually prove successful over there, but still haven't mopped up all the Chameleon Skinks yet. I've got my Feral Cold Ones possibly coming back from route soon as well. Nakai does manage to escape, so we can maybe get him with some healing from the Oracle. Oracle himself also needs some healing, so he's pulling back, trying to pull up and around here. I'm going to keep throwing skinks at Imric and his Noble and the Dragon Princess in the center. We've got him bogged up with the cohort of Sotek, poisoning them, poison javelins as well. The javelin cohorts that have used their javelins are going to now charge into melee. Meanwhile, Arc of Sotek just trying to help these skinks keep all of the rest of the High Elves routed out here. Skinks do rout a little bit, but the chameleons are there to help. The Sneck drop also, that damage over time effect. You can see, even though the Sea Guards are kind of mostly out of the area, the fact there's even still like 1 or 2 of them caught up in it, they will still be getting fresh ticks of that, and it just does so much damage to them that they do end up getting terror routed there. But anyway, let's keep it close. The Oracle and Nakai kind of hanging out together, got a little bit of healing. Nakai, risky for him to jump back in, but I don't want my Scarvet getting mauled too bad, which he is currently in the process of doing. So there's a shot from the Oracle, mostly doing friendly fire there. I'm trying to land hits on, you know, either Imric or the Noble or the Caster, any one of those 3, but really doing some nasty friendly fire right now on those poor cohorts. So I'm trying to go for some cleaner shots here, like out on these Dragon Princes. I can kill a couple of models right there on that shot, so that's great. The Oracle, even without the double shot, his ranged attack is still very strong. Damage over 10 seconds is quite impressive, so another shot there to finish off a few more Dragon Prince models. And certainly if I can get hits on any of the heroes, I want to, but it's just, you know, not great there. Another Dragon Horn being popped, sounds like. Yep, there it is. all the elves get a nice little map-wide attack buff. Most of the elves out here are continuing to stay routed. We've managed to rally together a bunch more skinks. We're going to try and make one more final stand here, but with the Ark of Sotek, things are pretty well in my favor. Likewise, the Sea Guards there with that little melee attack buff did some damage on the cohorts. Cohorts will trade super effectively, cost-effectively into Sea Guards. I don't know if they'll even necessarily win, but... Oh yeah, Ark of Sotek just leading the charge out here, trying to get rid of those elves. Here in the center, though, things are looking pretty desperate. I mean, Nakai pops his ability, Primal Roar, which does proc an Enrage here. The 40 melee attack on the Feral Cold Ones, though, puts them up to 67 melee attack. They come in here and actually do get some damage on Imric. Again, for a 450 cost unit, this is wildly cost-effective. Once that wears off, they're not going to be doing nearly as much, but still contributing some damage here. Nakai, though, he is in severe danger. Probably done for, honestly, at this point, so I'm just going to leave him in combat here. So that he doesn't go down without honor. Instead, he's honorably vanquished in 1v1 with the Noble. And immediately, you know, I'm going to charge in here. The Primal Roar, or sorry, Miasma of Despair popped before he went down just to debuff the speed. Once the poison gets in contact as well, of course, he'll go down to 47. I mean, literally everything has poison, so not hard to apply that. But nice overlapping speed debuffs. Has a nice little legacy of Nakai there. One more Earthblood for the Oracle. And honestly, having Earthblood on the Oracle is one of the main things that is so helpful. For a unit like Court of Sotek, for example, you pop that Refuse to Die, and it actually synergizes very well with healing spells because, you know, you have more entities than you otherwise would have had still alive. You have the ability to heal those entities. But a dangerous situation for the Oracle. Earthblood from right over on here on his little cav pocket. And I'm just rushing back to try and get to my successful skinks here who helped rout off that giant contingent of high elves plus the Court of or the Ark of Sotek rather, Court of Sotek. Still trying to deal with this Noble here and just keep him on the run. Ryder Rohan pulling back though, away from this big skink presence here that allows the Oracle to now drop some shots. A little bit of a swing and a miss there. He does have a nice arc now. You can fire up and over a little bit better, but that arc is somewhat slow. It's definitely easier to dodge than a direct line of fire shot from the Troglodyte. So another great heal from the Earthblood, from the Life Mage there. Keeping Imric and the Noble healthy, just about at their healing cap, which is very good for the High Elves, right? A few more skinks cleaning up over here, and thankfully I do have, like, this unit of cohorts very healthy still. Also not exhausted, whereas basically everything for the High Elves is exhausted, except for this one Sea Guard. Court of Sotek also still hanging around with 15 unit models. As soon as that Too Adorable to Die ability comes offline, we're going to pop that again so they can continue to chase and not have to worry about losing any models. More skinks screening on the other side, and Imric will run as best he can. Oracle does drop a few more Dragon Princes with its last couple of shots here. Gets a nice hit on Imric himself there. Going to be doing some really good damage. But another Earthblood from the High Elves there. Dragonhorn also being popped. So last big timing push to try and take down the Bastillodon. Lord of Dragons even popped on the Ark of Sotek here, taking it down to 0 attack, 6 melee defense. You can see it's taking a ton of damage, but the Snake Drop does a tiny bit of DPS damage over time, and Imric, just horrible luck here for Ryder Rohan gets terrified. The Oracle's going to follow up there. Unfortunately for the Oracle, Imric all of a sudden comes back and now is facing off with him, and I'm like, oh no, no, that's not good. Let's run away. So he's going to go ahead and run away, allow the Ark of Sotek to just keep fighting here. Cold-blooded on him. Deadly Onslaught on the Noble up to 374. Not the most weapon strength in the world, even with the Lord of Dragons uptime. That's why I wasn't too worried. The Ark of Sotek had some HP to give, let's say, in that situation. And the Terror now, along with the low leadership of the High Elves. In fact, they're all at their healing cap, all three of these heroes here. And still the Court of Sotek only lost one skink since we checked in with them earlier. Too Adorable to Die popped one more time, so those 14 are basically guaranteed to survive. Imric is going to continue fighting for some time here, as he does have very good leadership. He's not one to, you know, walk away from a fight easily, except that when he got terrified earlier. It's just a little bit too much at the end of the day there. Great job right on Rohan, though. He had some really nice plays. The build we talked a little bit about fine-tuning, maybe just cutting like one white line, cutting the shields from the Sea Guards, and going with more numbers. And then I think this is pretty solid. I actually really like Dragon Princes right now against Lizardmen, and one of them definitely paid for themselves. The other ones got pretty close. Imric himself also can be very good in this matchup. 3,000 damage value. Very impressive stuff. Noble also 2,000 damage value. So obviously they did a lot of the lifting for this army, but just not enough chaff clearing. Too many skinks try and cut through for those heroes, and Nakai did nothing, basically. He got pummeled super hard, but the Oracle, 2,300 damage value, 2,369 to be specific, very nice. 6,800 damage dealt, of course, lots of healing as well. Basically, like almost all of my spell casts were Earthbloods, which is fantastic. Court of Sotek, we're one of the main recipients of those, and actually got 1,578 damage value at the end of the day, which is really good, almost doubling their own value in damage output. Fantastic. A lot of that is coming from inflating, you know, healing high elf characters, which they got a lot of damage against, but even still, you do have to deal that damage, right? The rest of the Red Crests performing quite well also. Skink cohorts do decently. Just in general, the more you can help these Lizardmen you need to sustain and help support them, they'll perform better. Ark of Sotek, probably the best Lizardman monster right now, in my opinion. The Solar Engine is, you know, friendship ended with Solar Engine. My new best friend is Ark of Sotek, officially, because this thing, the damage over time effect, especially on, like, lower health, higher value army like High Elves, but just about any army, really, you can get really good value from this guy, so love that right now. Lizardmen are in a really good place. They're definitely in the best place they've ever been in, even though a lot of their big kind of signature monsters aren't super usable in most matchups. Like, you know, your Dread Saurian, yeah, against Vampire counts when they literally don't have any missiles. Maybe against Warriors of Chaos, but even then you run some risk. But, I mean, most units in the roster have a place, or at least like one or two matchups where you might want to bring them. I think really looking at the Lizardmen on paper, like, the only units that I would say you should basically never bring are, unfortunately, Sacred Croxigors. Like, there's just, for the cost, you're better off just going with other units, going with width and some actual monsters. Basic Croxigors can be decent in certain matchups in certain situations. They're also not incredible. Lizard Cavalry is also, I mean, it's good. It certainly has its role, and in the right matchups and with the right support, again, they can be very strong, but generally, I would say the weakest point of this roster is currently the Croxigors. But that doesn't include the Croxigor Lords. With the mass buff, Nakai, and with the Oracle now, he's going to be better than he was before, certainly. I don't know if he'll be meta by any means, but definitely usable. And you know, Croxigor Ancient was good before, is still good now, and also benefits, again, from the Oracle and some of these other new tools. Yeah, missile-focused matchups, like factions with powerful missiles used to be the bane of Lizardmen, but newer tools now, like the Chameleon Stalkers, the Quaddle, help sort of mitigate that somewhat. So, you know, I haven't done a tier list yet. I might do one in the coming weeks now. With the Cavalry beta being where it is, I can start really buckling down on hosting some tournaments, watching tournaments, you know, just gathering as much data, talking to people, trying to formulate some kind of opinion. But right now, you know, kind of early cursory glance, I would put Lizardmen in the top tier. I mean, like, thinking about their matchups, they really don't have many that seem bad, and those that do seem bad certainly seem winnable with the right build and sort of setup. But let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Are Lizardmen a top tier faction, even with, you know, the Oracle getting fixed? Hopefully you guys enjoyed this. If you like this sort of content, be sure to like, subscribe, hit that bell notification button every time I upload a new video. You'll be notified. Thanks again. We'll see you next time.